frozen chocolate pie. You'll need a 9-inch baked pie shell, 1 cup of confectioner's sugar, half a cup of soft butter, 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, make sure that it's melted, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 4 eggs, 1 cup of chilled whipping cream, and then another 2 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar.
Hi, this morning I'm making the Sager favorite frozen chocolate pie. Grandma Sager used to make it, and it's from this original Betty Crocker pie and pastry book. And as you can see by the recipe, I've made it a time or two, and I've learned a few secrets that I think make it better. So anyway, eventually Grandma Sager just told me to make it because I made it better. So I guess it's pretty good. Okay, a couple things I want to go over. This is my standard pie crust. We have a video on that, but it's just my standard Crisco pie crust. To make your proportions about right, these are 9 or 10-inch glass pie plates. So I allow, when I make a batch of dough, 1 cup of flour if it's a single crust, or 2 cups of flour if it's a double crust pie. Just a little fact. And so for this one, I'm making 2 of these, and I made a little extra for a peach pie after. But a couple tips about this. I'm going to roll the dough out and just put it in my glass pan. Always a reminder, I don't like to overwork the dough too much. I'd rather piece it together. And too much flour too can make a tough crust. So working it with a nice weighted rolling pin is nice too, because it's heavier and can give you a nice uniform crust. So quickly it rolls out pretty good because it's just made. And I put it right in the shell. Now there's a couple ways you can make an edge, and I'll just show you. I like to rip off the extra along just using the edge of the pie plate as a guide. And these little extra pieces I can use to fill in or make little decorations and throw them on top or whatever. Anyway, you can use the standard crimping for a pie crust like that. But if you want to do something different and you don't like that, a fork works pretty good. But you need to make it a little bit thicker, like right here, and just push it down. You've seen that on a lot of pies. And the other way you can do it, again, before you tear off too much of the extra, is to take a teaspoon and just go like this all the way around. And it eventually comes out looking like a little bit of a scallop if you do it just right like that. And it looks pretty nice too. But I like the old-fashioned crimping. So I'm gonna just crimp, because that's always what I do with my pies. And this part's a little bit empty, so I just take a remaining piece, fill it in. Typically people like the crust with this filling. It's a very dense and rich pie, so I don't like to make it have no crust. So here's this, almost finished. Now the next thing I'll do with any of my pies, whether it's a cream filling, any one crust pie that has to be baked off, this frozen chocolate pie the crust is baked first, then you let it cool, and then we'll fill it. But I like to dock it. I usually just use a meat fork, and I dock the sides and the bottom. Take a little sugar, because it promotes browning. and just kind of roll it around till I have, you know, just a little bit of a coating. You don't need it too much, but it does promote the browning. Now this pie would be ready to go in a 425 oven, and I bake it 8 to 10 minutes depending on how golden brown you want it. After that, I bring it out, let it set. Again, this is for any pie that you have a pre-baked crust, so super easy. And again, this is just the Crisco crust. One of my secrets about the frozen chocolate pie is make sure your eggs are at room temperature. Okay, we'll come back when we're ready to fill it. Okay, to start with the filling for the frozen chocolate pie, I've always used this Baker's. It's 56% cocoa, and it's a semi-sweet chocolate. I've never tried any of the other brands. I just had a good experience with this flavor. Anyway, I've taken the Baker's chocolate, and you can use a double boiler, but I use the microwave to melt it. It scorches really easy, so I find the microwave, I turn it on 30 seconds, stir, 30 more seconds, stir, just until it's completely melted like that. And I don't see any chunks left. You don't want it to be really hot when you pour it in there, so I've given it a little time to cool down. So in our bowl, we're going to take 2 cubes of butter. This is for 2 pies. But you take your butter and you want that to be soft. So the first step will be creaming the powdered sugar and the butter together. I would suggest, if your powdered sugar looks lumpy, sifting it, but this one that I have is nice and loose, so I'm not going to sift it. But if you've got lumps, sift it. So I'm going to add to that 1 cup of butter. I'm going to add 2 cups of powdered sugar. And I will cream those together nicely until it's completely incorporated. So that's the first step. Things together with my trusty KitchenAid, and I pretty much do it on a 2 at first because it flops all over, and I don't have a collar for my machine. Sometimes at this point I'll add the vanilla to kind of hint to incorporate, kind of bring down the I don't know, to bring moisture to it so it whips nicely. And I can tell now it's sort of starting to pick up the vanilla, so I can increase it. And I will probably let this mix 3 to 5 minutes until it's really nicely incorporated. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention is I usually use this type of the beater instead of a flat one because it does incorporate more air, and with this particular pie filling, that seems to be the best flavor. Also, as you see, it's coming together in kind of a nice thick butter and sugar mixture, but scrape down your bowl so you get everything incorporated like that, and your beater if you've got some on there. So, okay. Now, if you look in the bowl, this is what I'm looking for, kind of almost like a frosting consistency, and it looks nice and fluffy. At this point, I'm going to add my melted and cooled chocolate. It's not completely cold because then it would start setting up, but you can feel the bowl, it's very light and warm, but not hot. And I'm going to start drizzling and beating. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. A little bit at a time. And as with everything in this type of a filling, I want to keep scraping that bowl down so that all the butter and everything can mix up real nicely. And we want it to be kind of not too dense, but kind of fluffy. And scraping definitely helps you keep everything mixed in, and so it's a good proportion. So I'm mixing at about, this is a 7-quart mixer, between speeds 5 and 6. Okay, at this point here, I'm getting ready to add the eggs one at a time, and you want to beat it really nicely in between before adding a second egg. It's a mistake to try and shortcut this. You need to give it time to mix nicely. But this looks really good right now, the texture. This is what I'm looking for. I don't see any lumps. Although sometimes the family likes the lumps because it adds a real chocolatey flavor. So don't be discouraged the first time if you get that. And these are room temperature eggs. Just another thing I found. So I'll see in a few. I got to put 8 eggs in, and I'll mix each one for 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so we've incorporated all 8 of those eggs, and they were room temperature, so they really blended in nicely, and I only needed about 1 to 2 minutes per egg, and it made a really nice creamy filling. So all that's left to do is to scrape this into the pre-baked and cooled pie crust and freeze it. When you eat it, serve it with whipped cream and enjoy. See, the texture is nice, almost like a whipped cream, how it holds its shape. This holds really well in the freezer. I think we've probably even eaten it up to a month. But one thing nice about it is you can make it for the holidays easily a week ahead and have it ready to pull up at any time. I just try and level it up. And pretty much there you go.